What's going on, everybody? We're going to get it on just 1 second. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Don't worry, we're recording this, everybody. So we got it. We got it. Yeah. All right, let me get it on here. Boom. All right, there we go. There we go. There we go. Let's get this going. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Here we are.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Happy Monday. We're about to show you surveillance footage from inside the United States Capitol. The images you'll see were recorded 26 months ago today, on January 6, 2021. Until now, politicians have kept this tape hidden from the public. There is no legitimate justification for that, and there never has been. On January 6, 2 years ago, thousands of protesters walked from a Trump rally on the ellipse outside the White House to the U.S. Capitol, where the certification of the presidential election was underway. The protesters were angry. They believed that the election they had just voted in had been unfairly conducted, and they were right. In retrospect, it is clear the 2020 election was a grave betrayal of American democracy. Given the facts that have since emerged about that election, no honest person can deny it. Yet the beneficiaries of that election continue to lie about what is now obvious. The real crime, they will tell you again and again, is not what happened on Election Day 2020. The real crime is what happened 2 months later on January 6th, when Donald Trump led an insurrection against the duly elected American government. To prove that claim and to divert attention from the details of the presidential...
Before we go any further, the views expressed by Tucker Carlson and the Fox News program are not necessarily the views expressed by the Don't Unfriend Me Show, Breaking Truth, or Don't Unfriend Me LLC Proprietary 2023. I am using this video in a news capacity. Any banning that's done by any social media channel is because this is in the ether. All rights are reserved by Fox. However, this is being used by fair use under copyright law, and once again cannot be held culpable for any views in this segment that are not perpetrated, expressed, or vocalized by myself. Thank you very much, and go fuck yourself.
Presidential election itself, Democrats in Congress impaneled what they called the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack. The point of that committee was to prevent Donald Trump from running for president again. In December of last year, committee members
hit the like and the love button, everybody,
to refer Trump to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Mission accomplished. But what the committee did not do was explain what happened inside the Capitol on January 6th. 3 weeks ago, thanks to the new Republican Speaker's office, we gained access to thousands of hours of surveillance video that help answer that question. The January 6th committee had access to this very same tape and watched much of it. But as
Debbie, go fuck yourself. I'm not getting deplatformed because he says something that I don't agree with. If you don't like it, I don't fucking care. So I'm taking a huge risk to put this on. If you don't like it, get the fuck off my show. You have no idea how many times I've been almost deplatformed by something that somebody else said. I don't give a shit whether you like it. Don't you fucking tell me how I feel and what I don't feel. All of us have to be careful when we're conservatives. And until you have a show that's worth over $300,000, your fucking opinion doesn't matter. Don't get me started.
What they saw, and then hid the evidence from the public as well as from January 6th criminal defendants and their lawyers. That is unforgivable. Whatever you think of Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he rectified that crime, and we are grateful that he did. Before we show you the tape, a few words on the process. Our producers had unfettered access to the Capitol surveillance video. Neither the Speaker's office nor our bosses at Fox News interfered in any way with our investigation. Of the 40,000 or so hours of tape, most of it turned out to be irrelevant. Static shots of empty rooms, in some cases far from the Capitol itself. To find relevant videotape, our producers were given use of Capitol computers with advanced mapping software. That made it easy to find what we were looking for. What we didn't have was access to facial recognition software, and that was significant. For more than 2 years, we have wondered why some in the crowd that day who seemed to be inciting violence were never indicted for it. We assumed these were federal agents of some sort. We still assume that. And in fact, there were many examples of behavior we saw in those tapes that didn't seem to make sense. Men in civilian clothes holding doors open for protesters, escorting others through the Capitol, etc. We would love to know who these people were. But as of tonight, we don't know. And because we don't know, we're not going to put their faces on the screen and suggest they were federal agents. That would be irresponsible. So there were many mysteries we could not solve. Among them, unfortunately, is the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. From the evidence we have, the publicly available evidence, it seems clear that Babbitt was murdered by a Capitol Hill police officer called Michael Byrd. Ashley Babbitt was unarmed. She was shorter in stature than average. She posed no conceivable threat to anyone. But beyond that, we can only speculate about what happened. There were no security cameras near the Speaker's lobby where Ashley Babbitt was killed. And one more thing. Virtually no one in Washington, Republican or Democrat, certainly not in the news media, wanted to see this tape released tonight. That's why it's remained hidden for more than 2 years. In recent weeks, the usual hyenas in Congress and on cable news have been howling about we are putting lives at risk by showing this tape to the public. Given that these are the very same people who support open borders and defunding the police, it is hard to take their complaints seriously. But we do take security seriously. So before airing any of this video, we checked first with the Capitol Police. We're happy to say their reservations were minor, and for the most part, they were reasonable. In the end, the only change that we made was in blurring the details of a single interior door in the Capitol building. You're unlikely even to notice it when we show you, and we are confident it does not affect our reporting. With that, here's the video. It doesn't answer every question from January 6th, far from it. But it does prove beyond doubt that Democrats in Congress, assisted by Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, lied about what happened that day. They are liars. That is conclusive. And that fact should prevent them from ever being taken seriously again. We're going to begin tonight with footage that shows you what was actually happening inside the Capitol. The footage does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress. Instead, it shows police escorting protesters through the building, including the now infamous QAnon
Thanks,
Shaman.
Kimberly.
Watch. These are the
Appreciate the comments from everybody. I will not be called a shill because I'm going to protect my company. I don't know what Tucker's going to say. This is live, and I have to protect myself. And if you think that you wouldn't do the same, you're an idiot. Plain and simple. And I'm not going to sit here and have anyone. I don't know what he's going to say. Donald Trump rallies. I got banned from YouTube. I lost my entire channel because Donald Trump said some things that weren't true. I don't know what he's going to say. So I'm going to put a disclaimer on this and say that everything he says, I don't necessarily are my views until I hear what he has to say. And you should do the same thing. If you're just going to immediately say this proves everything that you thought and you haven't seen it, then you're the problem in the world today because you refuse to watch and disseminate new information to possibly change your mind. And that's what this whole show's about. And if you have a problem with me talking throughout this, go watch it somewhere else, because this is an opinion show and I am going to curtail my opinion throughout this. If that bothers you, go somewhere else.
Pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance
did you just see that?
from in and around the Capitol has
Did you see
been
the kid
withheld
pick
from
up the
public.
knockover?
And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken
Table
as a
leg or
whole, the video
whatever it was.
record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority were...
Now, I'm sorry, I have to pause this every 2 to 3 minutes. The reason why is copyright law states that I can't stream a show without adding original content. So every 2 or 3 minutes, we'll pause. There might be a question I might, pull up, and I apologize. This hour-long show will probably take 2 hours to get through, but you're going to get the premise, right? We'll go from there. Kristen says she wished she could watch it live. Folks, it will be restreamed unless they block this. Now, if they block it, I'll have it up on Rumble recorded. I'll have it on a personal, I've just bought a server myself. I got a 150 terabyte server. That's all mine. I own it now. So all my stuff will be up there backed up, and I'll give you guys personal links to it. All you got to do is just let me know. I'll post it on my website. So this won't go anywhere. We'll continue to watch it.
Weren't. They were peaceful. They were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon Shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're going to make that the story.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon Shaman.
The so-called QAnon Shaman.
QAnon Shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Okay, once again, we're pausing every 2 to 3 minutes because original content needs to be added to this, or it will be shut down for restreaming purposes. This is the Don't Unfriend Me show. This might be your first time here. You followed. This is predominantly what we do. I know you know us as a meme and funny quips and occasionally some clips and stuff, but we do a full live show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a recorded show Monday through Friday. We have over 452 videos. You might be like, how the hell have we just heard about you? We're one of the fastest growing conservative channels in the United States. We are worldwide. Our podcast is ranked in the top 10% in Spotify, and you probably haven't even heard of us. And the reason why is because Facebook throttles because we do stuff like this. We are not Trumpers. We are not Trumpettes. We are not MAGA tees. We are not Antifa. We are just Americans, and we have questions. And yes, a lot of us don't like what happened on January 6th and take serious umbrage with it and issue with it. And it's gut-wrenching for a lot of people. We are embarrassed by the way people acted. However, there's only been one side of the story told, and this footage tells a different story. A lot of us have seen some of these things, but this is a completely new and plentiful amount of video. We're talking thousands upon thousands of hours that have never been released. And the reason why Kevin McCarthy gave it to Fox News is because they are the only ones who've taken an active interest in showing it, while the rest of the media has suppressed it. Welcome to the show. My name is Matt Spare. I have a tendency to drop an F-bomb once in a while. On the recorded show, I don't. On live, I will. If you're an ass, I'm going to call you out and tell you you are. If I don't agree with what you say, I'm going to challenge you. Or I might slap you on the back and tell you great job. Either way, this is a show where we interact with everybody. It's not a recorded with pretext and scripts. We don't do that. One of my longtime listeners just heard it from me because they said that I was selling out because I put a disclaimer on the front of this show and said, I don't know if I agree with everything. Anything he says, don't hold me accountable and deplatform me. Folks, this is as real as it gets. Enjoy, and please like, share, and subscribe. TheDumbShow.com if you want to follow us and make sure you don't lose our channel. That's how you find us.
QAnon Shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many
Nobody
violent
blocked you,
criminals now
Warren.
receive.
Go fuck
What
yourself.
did
Eat a
Jacob
salad,
Chansley
bro.
do to receive this punishment?
Go take
To
a
this
walk
day,
around the
there's
block and
dispute over how
don't watch
Chansley
my
got
show. It's
into
good
the
for your
Capitol
heart.
building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him.
Yeah,
They
you can
acted
post
as
it. You
his
can
tour
share
guides.
it.
Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into the building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen.
Yeah, I'm looking at my numbers
with the
there, big guy.
depiction of
Warren,
Jacob
let me tell you,
Chansley that
the
you've
last
seen in
time
media for more than
400 or 471 people paid attention to you is when you were at fucking Sizzler in the all-you-can-eat salad bar, right? Brother, you don't know anything about me, Warren, and if you have any balls whatsoever, there's the fucking phone number. Call in. Call in. I'll put this on hold for you. What are you crying about now? What's in your panties that's got you all in a bunch? Did you get a little sand in your vagina? What's wrong with you? What am I doing that you don't like? Is it that you're so entrenched to the left that me playing a video threatens your very existence? Or is it I'm not ultra MAGA enough for you? Am I not walking around with a freaking upside down flag and a 3% tattoo and rocking a swastika that you don't like me? Which one is it? I'm interested to find out. Am I too milquetoast for you because I drop an F-bomb once in a while? Or I like facts over fucking your emotion and feelings? What is it, Warren? Tell me. If you're going to troll, do it right. There's the phone number. Call in. See if you're a man. You got 300 pounds to your girth. There's got to be some confidence there.
Should be killed.
Shoot him. Yeah. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him. Shoot him. It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing
Appreciate
right
everyone
next to
sticking
him
by.
place him
391.
under
Good to have
arrest?
everybody on. Thank you.
Until now, no one could even prove that even happened. But it did. We're going to digest this surveillance video from the U.S. Capitol on January 6th in pieces tonight. We're going to show you more in just a moment. But first,
Warren, why don't you come on? You talk a lot of shit, but you won't come on. Are you ashamed of what you look like?
Story from the very beginning. By the way, this will be the front page of tomorrow's New York Post. Miranda Devine joins us now.
You're not 225, Warren.
So the
You're not 225. And if you're 225 at 6'1", you need to eat salad.
Thanks to the surveillance video is vast. But in the case of Jacob Chansley, it's very troubling since his life has been destroyed and he's in prison as we speak. Simple question. How, given that Jacob Chansley was wandering around with armed police officers who appeared from the footage to be helping him, could he be indicted and convicted and they not? Like, how does that work?
Well, it's very sad because obviously you can see from the demeanour of the police officers and from his own demeanour that he was harmless, that they regarded him as harmless. You saw him walk past about 9 other police officers. They didn't even
No problem, Luat. Appreciate you.
Look, even though he was dressed so garish.
It's okay, Marcy. I can't afford cable either, but we got to get it put on.
Artist. And was not.
There's the phone number, Warren. I've even got a wide-angle lens, bro. I can get you on in 16:9 if you want to do video.
Chamber. And so why
just stay at least 10 feet back.
Was that footage not used as exculpatory evidence in his trial? This man is spending almost 4 years in jail, a naval veteran, aged 33 years old, and he's just puzzled about it. You can see in that jailhouse interview that you played
6'1" and 215.
Is sort of.
God, what are you, 65? God, you did some drugs in the 70s, eh, boy?
Showing him around that it was okay. That what he was doing was appropriate. And
yeah, Lori, I'm on Rumble. It's at the Dumb Show.
Those people were
I'll get a link for you.
Through the Capitol, as you say, they are walking meekly, politely, queuing, very peaceable.
I think it was a bench trial, Dana. I'll find out for you.
They are treating the Capitol with reverence. That doesn't excuse the others, the minority of the protesters who did break windows and fight police and injure police and cause mayhem. But the people who are now being picked up and some of them have been jailed without trial for months, even years on end, did not commit violence. They walked through open doors. They were escorted by police. They felt that this was okay. And I think Jacob Chansley is a classic example of that.
If I go to the door of a liquor store and a uniformed police officer opens it for me, I walk in, I take the money out of the till and then leave, escorted by the police officer, he's an accessory to the crime I just committed. I'm not attacking the Capitol Police. We're grateful for their help in getting this video out. But that doesn't make any sense at all. And the federal judge who oversaw this case doesn't seem to have noticed. This seems insane to me, and I don't know why no one is willing to explain it.
Well, clearly the Capitol Police, none of them, you have 9 or 10 officers there, do not think that there is anything unusual about this guy with the fur hat and the Viking horns and the face paint wandering around the corridors and walking into the then, Senate chamber that had been evacuated.
Hey, Schmed, Brandon, says, guess I'll watch somewhere else instead of you talking. Hey, Schmed, I'm sorry a talk show talks too much. You haven't heard all of this before? You're here to watch the video. We've heard this shit for 2 years. Let's watch the video footage, That's what we're here for. Can you not watch the video with me talking? Can you not see it streaming? This is an analyst they've had on, Miranda Devine. Do you know how many times she's been on before? I apologize if I'm your cable provider. If I don't talk, then we get banned. And they shut the video down. And anyone who's watched my show for more than 5 minutes knows that I stream this stuff and you have to add content. If you don't, you get nailed for copyright. And the reason why is because there's ads running on this and there's profit to be made. And if I don't pause and have a conversation, that's what happens. You may not understand that, but I'm not here for your personal amusement. I'm not here to provide you cable. If you want to watch this in the comfort of your own home with silence, you have more power to do that. Pony the fuck up and go to Comcast and get yourself a box. Otherwise, do something else.
Senate chamber that had been evacuated. What we hear from the Capitol Police, they tell us, is that they were trying to de-escalate the crowd, de-escalate any unrest. And so perhaps that's what they were doing. They were completely...
By the way, Warren's back because he's too much of a pussy to call. He says, you started out begging about your money. When the hell did I mention money? And crying over Tucker. You know it. What? Show a full pic of you if you can without a diaper. Sure, I'll show a full pic with me. Let me get one for you. Do you want a nudie? Is that what, are you trolling for a nude? Is this all about gay love, brother? You want to compare physiques. That's what you're looking for. Okay. That's fine, bud. We will. Let's see. I'll do this for you. How about you go ahead and you call me on the show and we'll have a push-up contest. I'll give you $10,000 cash if you can do 25% of the push-ups that I can do. Let's make that bet. I'll give you $10,000 cash. I will fly to your personal home and hand you $10,000 and hand you a masculine push-up trophy. You call in right now and we'll have a push-up contest. If you can do 25%, I'll give you $10,000. How does that sound? How does that sound that I care about my money? $10,000, Warren. I'll get on video. You can get a video. My daughter's right here. She's got my phone. I'll start. So make sure you understand. I've got to do 2.5 push-ups if you don't know how to do math, because you seem like a fucking intellectual savant. 2.5 for every one. I'll do 2.5 for every one you do. So just to make sure you understand, you've got it down, right? You got to do 2.5 push-ups for every 10 that I do, which means if you do 25, how many do I have to do? You want to make that $10,000. You peak masculine male you. Let's see if you call in.
People calm and happy. They were betrayed by Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, who refused the repeated requests by the Capitol Police Chief, Stephen Sund, in the days before and several times on the day of January 6th for backup, for National Guard. That is the most inexplicable part of this story.
It is. And in fact, tomorrow we're going to have an interview with a Capitol police officer in charge of the sector where this took place, inside the Capitol, explaining what happened.
No, Michael. No, Michael, it's not a Joe Biden move. Shit begets shit. If you come onto my channel and question me and my integrity, you expect me to sit here and take it? He is fat. It's called the truth. It's just the truth, man. If he's going to sit here and question my integrity, I'm not going to sit there and question him. He questioned my masculinity and he's fucking pushing jelly donuts and he's going to question my masculinity? No, I don't think so, man. You got the wrong guy. Joe Biden wouldn't even know how to respond. Joe Biden wouldn't even know you're making fun of him. At least I can go ahead and give as good as I get. I gave the guy a chance to make $10,000. What do you want, man? God, you fucking, you just absolutely triggered fucking people, left or right. You call and you start shit and you're like, oh, this is like Ben Shapiro. He's not going to say anything to me. This guy's like Crowder. He won't read the comments. Guess what? I'm reading the fucking comments. And it bothers you that I clap back? Well, if you don't like it, then don't talk shit. I gave him a chance to make $10,000. Everyone here knows I'll give it to him.
I appreciate, Miranda Devine, you coming on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
So from January 6, 2021 till today, you will hear people say, including the President of the United States, that the mob murdered.
Do you see how Warren's calling me fat now? This is how unique this guy is.
But the death of Officer Brian Sicknick is the pretext they used to tell that lie. So what happened to Officer Brian Sicknick? Well, we found footage of him within the Capitol that proves they are lying. That's next.
Sure that sides.
Within hours of January 6th, literally hours.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks for sharing that.
Described as a deadly insurrection, and not described by one.
Yeah, proper push-ups, nose to the ground, straight back. Absolutely. Let's do that.
Almost like it was coordinated. A deadly insurrection That's how history may record January 6th. But the tape that we reviewed from within the building on that day proves it was neither an insurrection nor deadly. Here it is.
January 6th, when an estimated 2,000 rioters breached the Capitol building, causing the deaths of 5 police officers.
Certain dates echo throughout history. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001. And January 6th. The mob beat officers.
Sorry, folks. I got to keep Warren going because he's just entertainment outside of this. Your U-R-E. U-R-E. He spells your U-R-E. U-R. U-R-E, a freaking idiot. Try me, mouth. I'll do 1 for your 2. It's 2.5, jackass. You can't even do math. Immediately, 55, and all done was giggled. I'm here. Here, you want to do this? You want me to trust you. You want to go on the trust and merit game. What are you, wimpy? You want a hamburger today and you'll gladly pay me on Tuesday? Is that what I'm hearing? No, fuck that. I want video proof. You got to call in. Use the video link you seem spamming right here and get on camera and let's go. I'll make you a deal. I will put my 10-year-old son on my back. Still do 2.5, and if you do more than me, I'll give you $10,000.
Is this happening?
He won't do it. This guy's fucking dude. He's soft. He's soft. Ah! Will you tell him?
Dude, don't do it. You'll lose.
He can't hear you.
You'll lose. He'll do 500 easily.
Anytime, buddy. I'll put my 10-year-old son on my back. You only have to do 1 for my 2.5. All right, we're going to listen to Tucker, Warren, because I've given you enough time. Do you have enough attention? Are your neurons firing? Do you feel better about yourself because your daddy touched you? Can we put this back to your parents and put you on the couch? Are you okay now? Have you gotten enough attention? All right, I spanked you properly. We all know, dude, I gave you the link. You didn't call in.
January 6th. The mob beat officers with anything they had on them. Hockey stick, flagpole,
yes, that's my daughter.
Fire extinguisher. Police officers died.
Donald Trump supporters who, of course, rioted and killed police officers.
By the evening of January 6th, the Democratic Party and its publicists in the national news media had settled on a description of what had happened that day. They distilled an enormous number of highly complex events that
Where's
even
Mom's
now
comment?
we don't fully understand, into a single emotionally elated political slogan.
I don't know where Mom's
which they've
comment
repeated
is.
for years with remarkable discipline. January 6th, they said, was a deadly insurrection.
There was a deadly insurrection that the right wing is trying to cover up.
He incited a deadly
This guy's such a chump.
A deadly insurrection.
The violent, deadly insurrection on the Capitol 9 months ago, it was about white supremacy, in my view.
A deadly insurrection. Everything about that phrase is a lie. Very little about January 6th was organized or violent. Surveillance video from inside the Capitol shows mostly peaceful chaos. But the slogan worked. The term deadly carries enormous emotional power, which is why they used it. To prove the insurrection was deadly, propagandists pointed to the death of an officer called Brian Sicknick. The mob killed Officer Brian Sicknick. That's what they said. It was their single most powerful indictment of the January 6th protesters.
Okay, I now have to call it a ceasefire. I'm sorry. We're going to listen to this. My wife just chimed in against Warren, and my wife just how would you describe it, Hayden?
Do what?
Of what Mom just said to Warren.
No.
Okay, so my wife just says, and then we're done with Warren. It says, instead of comparing the amount of push-ups, how about you compare wives if you have one? Warren, you just got clapped on
By a girl.
by a girl. She's doing my light work for me. Love you.
And of Republican voters nationally. They repeated that claim for years. They are still repeating it. At first, they told the country that Officer Sicknick was murdered with a fire extinguisher.
Officer Brian Sicknick died after being hit in the head with a fire extinguisher during the fight.
That story came from the New York Times, which is effectively...
Folks, comments are unfortunately, if you're on Facebook, you'll see them there. And YouTube, they will be rebroadcast. But that's usually I have the comments going. But because we have the video up full screen, I can't. All right, we're going to play the video for a bit.
In media. It was a lie, untrue in any way. But only after that lie had hardened into conventional wisdom did the newspaper bother to retract it.
The New York Times has quietly retracted its story about the death of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick.
The damage had been done. Brian Sicknick, himself a Trump voter, had been transformed without his consent into a political martyr of the left. His memory was shamelessly exploited by the incoming Biden administration. In February of 2021, Sicknick's body lay in state in the Capitol Rotunda, where a parade of unscrupulous politicians made use of it. Here's Joe Biden.
Breaking down the doors, trying to overturn an outcome of election, and killing several police officers in the meantime.
But Brian Sicknick should not be reduced to a prop for the political ambitions of the Democratic Party. He was a human being. The facts of his life matter, including how he died. To this day, media accounts describe Sicknick as someone who was, quote, slain on January 6th. The video we reviewed proves that is a lie. Here is surveillance footage of Sicknick walking in the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by the mob outside. By all appearances, Sicknick is healthy and vigorous. He's wearing a helmet, so it's hard to imagine he was killed by a head injury. Whatever happened to Brian Sicknick was very obviously not the result of violence he suffered at the entrance to the Capitol. This tape overturns the single most powerful and politically useful lie the Democrats have told us about January 6th. And it was indeed a lie. The January 6th committee knew perfectly well that Brian Sicknick was walking normally through the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by Trump supporters. And they know that because they saw this tape. We can be sure because the footage contains an electronic bookmark that is still archived in the Capitol's computer system. That means that investigators working for the Democratic Party reviewed this tape. They saw it, but they refused to release the tape to the public. Why? Because this tape would shatter the fraud they were perpetrating on the country. Because hiding the truth served their political interest. They lied about the police officer they claimed to revere. If they were willing to do that, then their dishonesty knew no limits. And as you'll see in a moment, their dishonesty did know no limits. New surveillance video in just a minute, including new reporting on Ray Epps and what he was doing there and what he told investigators.
That's what I want to hear. I want to hear about Ray Epps.
And how it's contradicted by the video evidence. But first, to assess what we just saw, Charlie Hurt of the Washington Times joins us now. Charlie, thanks so much for coming on.
Great to see
so
you.
if you think, and you've really got a feel for Brian Sicknick, who's passed away, and you've got to wonder about anyone who knew. They knew that he was not murdered by the mob, but they've claimed it anyway for 2 years. And it takes a very low kind of person to do that, to lie about a man's death like that for political advantage. And this tape proves that's exactly what they did.
No, these people are truly sick. You think you know how sick they are, and then you see something like this, and you realize.
Is Warren still talking?
There's
too many comments. I can't even see his stuff. Is he still crying?
That they won't exploit. And as Joe Biden said, oh no, this is also about white supremacy. And nobody comported themselves worse than the press did on this day, and of course in the years afterwards. And the best example of it is to look at the degree to which so many people in the press are so upset that you got the tapes and that you're going to release the tapes. I've never heard of this. I've never, in all of my life, I've never known a press that didn't want information to be released. That's what we have been fighting for since the invention of the printing press. And now we have all these people. They're so committed to sort of the big lie that the government tells that they'll do anything, including denigrating the name of a good police officer and trying to hide the truth in order to sort of prop up this propaganda. The deadly insurrection is one of them. The other one that they love to talk about is the armed insurrectionists. And I remember at the time asking reporters at the time, why do you keep calling these people armed insurrectionists when there's no evidence that anybody used any arms against it? And they said, well, they had flagpoles. So it's because people were walking around with American flags that made them armed insurrectionists.
I should say for our viewers who don't know, you've been in journalism all your life. Your father was a journalist. You grew up in this business. And I agree with you. It's shocking to see how thoroughly it's been perverted into what it is now.
To support the government.
Right. Active defense of the people in charge. It's shocking. Charlie Hurt, appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to see you.
So there's one takeaway from all of the footage that we went through, thousands of hours over the past 3 weeks, is that the January 6th committee lied, that the press bought and repeated their lies, and that those lies were used to strip the civil liberties, in some cases the freedoms, of voters across the country, really to eliminate some of our core human rights in this country. So in a moment, we're going to show you new proof, new evidence of that, video they withheld, including video of Ray Epps. That's straight ahead.
You're watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. We're skipping the commercials because we have to.
Golo was due.
So bear with us here. There you go.
If there's one takeaway from the corpus of footage that we spent 3 weeks looking at, it's that the January 6th committee lied. Its members are liars. And as the result of those lies, core civil liberties in this country were eroded. People went to prison. They're in prison as of right now, unjustly. So those lies had consequences. So you have to ask yourself, whatever happened to the members of the January 6th committee? These liars who hurt people and the country. Well, let's see. Adam Schiff is running for Senate. Adam Kinzinger got a job at CNN. Liz Cheney somehow wound up a professor at the University of Virginia, the august University of Virginia. They're all still there. Benny Thompson, ooh, listen to his wisdom, but they're liars. And above all, this video proves it. Here's another installment. One of the enduring mysteries of January 6th is the role that intelligence and law enforcement agencies played in the events of that day. We know there was some number of undercover federal agents in the crowd at the Capitol. Officials have since admitted that under oath. But what exactly were they doing there? The January 6th committee worked hard to hide the answer to that question. We do know from contemporaneous videotape that a mysterious figure called Ray Epps encouraged the crowd to go into the Capitol. For some reason, Epps has never been indicted for that. But there's no question he did it.
We need to go into the Capitol!
Under public pressure, the January 6th committee finally interviewed Ray Epps. Epps told the committee that he never entered the Capitol and therefore never committed a crime. His text messages showed that at 2:12 p.m., he boasted to his nephew that he had, quote, orchestrated the protests at the Capitol. He admitted he helped get people there. Yet, curiously, congressional Democrats consider Ray Epps an ally, not an insurrectionist. Tonight, we can tell you that at the very least, Ray Epps lied in his sworn testimony to the January 6th committee. Epps testified that when he sent the text messages to his nephew, he had already left the Capitol grounds to return to his hotel room. That is not true. The surveillance footage we found shows that, in fact, Ray Epps remained at the Capitol for at least another half an hour. You're seeing that on your screen now. What was Epps doing there? We can't say, but we do know that he lied to investigators. The January 6th committee likely knew this too. Democrats had access to the same tape, yet they defended Ray Epps. No honest investigation would do that. But the point of the January 6th committee was never to investigate anything. The point was to stage a made-for-TV show trial. From the opening moments, the tone of the hearings was almost comically overheated and polemical. There is not a tragedy in American history that Democrats didn't liken to the protests of January 6th.
I'm from a part of the country where people justify the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan, and lynching.
How staged and fraudulent was the work of the January 6th committee? Democrats hired a Good Morning America producer called James Goldston to dramatize the footage they released. They even dubbed in audio to make the pictures more sensational, as in a docudrama. The networks carried it all live, as if it were real. But Donald Trump was far from the only target.
The enemy is within the House of Representatives.
Within hours of January 6th, Democrats alleged a conspiracy. They claimed their Republican colleagues had helped to plan the breach of the Capitol building. There was never any evidence this was true, none at all, yet it was widely repeated.
our colleagues are continuing to engage with white nationalist extremist groups, the most violent attack on the Capitol since the War of 1812.
At one point, the January 6th
Minus
committee
1971,
publicly accused Republican
when the
Congressman
Weather
Barry
Underground did
Laudermilk
it.
of Georgia of leading a reconnaissance mission through the Capitol building the day before.
They were looking for some member of Congress that was involved in all this.
The surveillance tape that we reviewed shows this story is a lie, and the Democrats on the committee knew it was a lie when they told it. The so-called reconnaissance mission Democrats...
So to make sure everyone understands, we're 550 some odd. Great to have everybody on. Thanks for being on. This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show. My name is Matthew Spear. We've got a troll. I engage with the audience. It's something I read all the comments. It's impossible to do it on a show like this. We're going to have 20,000 comments by the end of the night. But we do have a troll. The troll decided to come in here and call me milquetoast, question my fundraising. Because I put a disclaimer on this show that the view of Fox and Tucker Carlson are not necessarily that of Don't Unfriend Me, because if you don't do that, you can be banned and your channel can be deplatformed, because anything he says, they assume that I'm propagating. So you have to be very careful. There's laws, there's rules, and it's only on YouTube. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. He's entitled to his opinion. We've got into a verbal altercation. He's called me fat. I called him fat first. And he said, well, show a picture. So I'm going to show a picture. He wants to see a picture of me. I figured we would interrupt, just take a quick break, and I'll show you my latest. I'm very proud of it. I hope you like it too. Here it is. I spent a lot of time trying to find these leather garments. And to really replicate the YMCA look. I'm not that hairy anymore. I have found a local waxer, but of course, no, that's not me. That's actually the monkeypox director for Joe Biden. My picture is pretty simple. I'm not that ostentatious, but I do work out 5 days a week. I've got a full gym downstairs. I take care of it. And, there I am. So if you want to consider me fat, that's fine. You can, but I've challenged you to a push-up contest. I challenge you to call in and get on video. You don't want to do that because, you're questioning me. You're questioning my physicality. So if you can't keep up with me from a mental aptitude standpoint, which we've already established because you can't even spell very complex words like it, the, we, and do, I figured physical might be more of your cup of tea or particular brand of vodka. But obviously that is niet as well. Folks, let's continue to watch Tucker Carlson. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show.
Nothing more than Congressman Laudermilk giving a guided tour to his constituents from Georgia, none of whom were, quote, insurrectionists. Laudermilk didn't even take the group inside the Capitol building. They walked through a congressional office building down the street.
The FBI totally cleared them. The committee knew this before they actually made their accusations.
I make my living off the
wanted
trolls.
to create this
I care about the trolls.
That would, fit where they wanted the evidence to lead.
Despite the video evidence they possessed proving it wasn't true, the committee included the lie in its final report. Protesters, it says dramatically, quote, took a tour of the Capitol with Representative Barry Laudermilk, during which he took pictures of hallways and staircases.
If you read the final report, it was a manifesto against Donald Trump. That's all it was.
When the committee wasn't accusing Republican office holders of planning riots on January 6th, it was accusing them of running away from those riots like cowards. In the case of Senator
Thanks,
Josh
Lisa.
Hawley
Good to have
of
you here.
Missouri,
Lisa
the committee
Smith.
and their allies accused him of both.
Josh Hawley is a...
To prove that Josh Hawley was a coward, the committee released video of him loping out of the building on the afternoon of January 6th with a police escort. The tape became a staple on social media. Democrats laughed with derision.
Later that day, Senator Hawley fled after those protesters he helped to rile up stormed the
Thanks,
Capitol.
Joanne.
See for yourself.
But in fact, the surveillance footage we reviewed shows that famous clip was a sham, edited deceptively by the January 6th committee. The clip was propaganda, not evidence. The actual videotape shows that Hawley was one of many lawmakers being ushered out of the building by Capitol Hill police officers. And in fact, Hawley was at the back of the pack. The coward tape was a lie, one of many from the January 6th.
That pisses me off right there. Right there. That's bullshit, man. Pardon my French.
Is for certain. Thomas Massie serves in the Congress. He did then. He does now. He represents the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Congressman, thank you so much for coming on. I have never seen members of Congress accuse the other. I mean, there's usually a kind of fraternity in the Congress. You're all members of Congress, 435. Accuse their colleagues unfairly, without any evidence at all, of committing felonies. What's your response to this, to the lying from your colleagues in the Congress?
So listen, I understand we're watching Tucker and we're over halfway through. There's about 20 minutes left. But something needs to be said in regards to a couple of things about this. Is, first off, you have the U.S. government that has propagated lies to the United States with the entire balloon fiasco, knowing about it 10 days in advance when it was in the Pacific Ocean, where they could have shot it over water plenty of times from Hawaii, which has plenty of naval bases, has Air Force bases, and has fast response teams and QRT teams that could respond from an air wing and engage this target if wanted. Told us stories about Ohio and the train and the toxic spill in Ohio, which was that everything's safe, everything's okay, no big deal. And now there's this massive concerted effort of cleanup going on, dead fish being pulled out of these rivers, and the tributaries are flooded with this chemical. And we're lied to. We have been lied to about Ukraine with air raid sirens, where Joe Biden is going in, when I've already made that video and proven that that was completely bollocks, where over 600 to 700 flights with different various MiGs and Russian aircraft are taking off over 40 bases surrounding Kyiv. We can go back through COVID and the lockdown, and now the Energy Department and FBI confirming, saying that the likelihood or the confidence is low, but then having the FBI director say in front of the Senate that we're almost 100% confident that it was released from the Wuhan lab, being lied to. Our necks being stepped on during COVID, businesses shut down, being told mask, don't mask, plexiglass, don't, use sanitizer, don't use sanitizer, get the vaccine, get 3 of them, wear 4 masks. The absolute amount of BS coming from this administration is more than I've ever seen before. And I've been following politics my whole life, 49 years old in a month, exactly. And I've been following this since I was 6 years old. And I've always loved politics. There is an erosion taking place where you can no longer not trust the media, but they keep telling us about deep fake, where they can alter audio and video of people and make them say things that they want and psych out the public with a head fake of creating this false narrative. Folks, that's already been happening. And you don't have to just look at this. You can go back to the Democratic lies about this party switch that never took place. You can how the Republicans were the founders of the KKK, how Democrats are the party of Lincoln. You can hear about Japanese internment camps. You can hear about civil rights and how the Dixie Democrats were actually Republicans. These lies are all built into things like the 1619 Project. And I'm all about Black history. I'm all about all history should be taught. But to simply wash it away with another version that propagates your party as somehow not complicit in the deep-seated racism that's in our country is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard. It's come to the point where when you hear something, you better stop and wait and not react right away and formulate an opinion, because pretty much everything you're hearing is wrong. And it's not called the fog of war anymore, because we learned that in intelligence and we understand what the fog of war is, and we know how to filter through that noise. This is not a fog of war. This is a curtain and veil of deception, which is being utilized to transfer into money, power, and votes. Period. This is proof of that. You're watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. Nothing is destroying me, but this one is. You're physically trying to destroy the credibility of another politician And the one thing you hear from Senate and House and it doesn't matter, City Council, is my esteemed colleague from across the aisle. You don't hear that. This is an esteemed colleague. This is an enemy. They see these people as enemies of the state, or enemies of their federal government, or enemies of their populist manifesto. Anybody that disagrees with them is now an enemy. And this is the mentality. And you wonder when they say, we're not trying to take your guns, you're going to believe them? Their actions say otherwise.
Exposed so many lies tonight with these tapes that it's changed my perception of what happened 2 years ago, and I was there. The tapes of people milling peacefully about. And my hat's off to your producers for
So
sitting over there
frustrating.
and going through hours
Getting the
of
video
this.
up.
Yes.
Hold on.
But
It's just so frustrating to see this. Everyone should be
to
absolutely
unleash the resourcefulness of the
up in
American
arms over this.
public on these videos. I think they should be released. You know, I think it's poppycock that they can't be released because of some security issues. Look, I'm the one who's supposed to be secured by these buildings, and I'm not worried about releasing them.
I agree. Both parties do it.
In fact,
But
there was a Rasmussen,
the level of lying that's taking
poll
place
that just
now
came
is
out. This showed
unprecedented.
Over 80%, 78% of Democrats and 86% of Republicans say that all the videos should be released. And
Rachel, you know what? Quickly. Sorry, folks. Once again, we got to interrupt this. We can't just stream the show. We've got to add content to it. So we pause in between. We've only got about, 16 minutes left. What can we do about it? I get that question more than anything else. And I'll tell you, there's a couple of things. This was mine. We lost two amazing friends who we loved and adored in their entire family. They were godparents to our children. And because my wife voted for Trump, they defriended us. And that's the day we created Don't Unfriend Me. And it's been around since. And it's not about not taking toxic people out of your life, because if you have some troll or some idiot who's toxic, they most assuredly need to go. What it is don't necessarily get rid of me because of my opinion or what I have to say. Now, if you're belligerent, you're rude and think you don't need that in your life. But if you disagree with somebody, you should have them in your life, because the world has become a vacuum. The entire social media channels, everything on our phone is curtailed to us and our beliefs. Why do you think they ask you the question, do you want to see more of this in your posts or less? Why do you think when you unfollow Occupy Wall Street that all of a sudden all other liberal channels drop off and you get more conservative channels? They curtail your vacuum. And what I have tried to create in this show is to stop, think, and only discuss from a factual standpoint, an emotionalist standpoint, what you can prove. And it has done me very well over the last 2.5 years in this show. I have only retracted one story in this show, ever. And the reason why is because I wait. I am not now going to go and say, okay, because I've got this footage, that all of a sudden everything that happened in J6 was benign and innocent, because that's a farking lie. It wasn't. And anyone who says it was is not being honest. However, there is an underseated movement inside of this to malign Trump supporters with insurrection and racism. And it's been happening every day since he came down from the golden escalator. And that is a lie. Are there racists in this party? Sure. Are there Klan members in this party? Yes. Just like some of the people in Georgia who are uprising against and burning police training stations are Antifa, or from France, or from other countries. Every party has bad seeds, but to try to say that we are this because of an acts of a few is ridiculous. What can you do? One is that everyone wants to have the president changed. The president has very little power. And the president doesn't change much. He changes federal law. That really doesn't impact you. Your taxes, inflation, gas prices, food prices, okay, fine. Those ebb and flow, and in the end, they balance out. What you're most impacted by is your local city, state, municipality government, city council, school boards, energy plants next to you, local gas tax, your water. These things are what impact you. So getting involved in city council, getting involved on the school board, going to your schools and doing audits on the curriculum that they're teaching your children. These are things you have the power to do. Freedom of Information Act is a major and beautiful thing for citizen journalists all over the country. Use it. Stop going to one source. Use All Sides Balance. If you must use the media, go to allsidesbalance.com. It'll show you every article, whether it's left, right, or center. It'll give you an idea of what you're walking into so you can go validate it with 3 other articles to kind of get the other side's opinion. Don't read one thing. Challenge multiple, even if you don't like somebody. Bill Maher is one of my favorite people on the planet, and I disagree with about 90% of what he says. I adore Ben Shapiro. I adore Crowder. Rush Limbaugh was someone I idolized, but I do disagree with them from time to time. Study more, read more. You don't have to be an expert on every subject, but you should be able to speak about all subjects with a little bit of understanding. And the understanding is this: I'm an expert or I have questions. Those are the 2 things you can always do on any topic. I'm an expert or I have questions. Have the curiousness of a child whenever you read anything, and have the doubt of a child. They are very inquisitive, and they don't let other things dissuade them from what they believe and what they think. My daughter is one of the most stubborn human beings in the world. She wanted to see her dad do push-ups against the troll. The troll didn't want to go ahead and play the game. The next thing is find what you can do, whether it's running for city council, whether it's organizing your friends and family, bringing people to vote, going to an election poll and poll watching. Maybe it's writing a blog or a column. Maybe it's making a video. Maybe it's getting a podcast. Maybe you do political cartoons because you have a pecan wit. I don't know. But whatever it is, sitting on Facebook and changing your profile pic or putting a yellow and blue flag on your account isn't going to do anything. You've got to make an impact. You've got to try to do more. So that's the best advice. What can we do? That's what we can do. It's not armed insurrection. It's not getting as many guns as we can and having a standoff with the government. It's using our right to have a declarative quorum with our senators and state legislatures. You have rights to actually book an appointment with them, and they have to hear you. Bring a list of grievances to your senator and legislature. Get 100 of your friends to call. Use your Facebook chat and moms group to actually say, we don't want this shit taught to our kids. We don't want anyone sexually changing our children through chemical castration. We don't want them to see pornography. We don't want them to talk about their sex, whether it's heterosexual, whether it's lesbian, gay, or indifferent. It's not the right time. We are the parents. We have the birds and bees talks with our kids, not you. You have to say something, and you're going to have to get into everybody's little faces once in a while. And yes, you're going to have to drop a few F-bombs, Christian or not. You got to say something. You got to have a conversation, and it might turn into an argument. But you know what? That is where the best things in life start and end. Some of the best friends I've ever had in my life, we've gotten into a fist fight and then go have a beer. People who challenge you intellectually and emotionally will help you grow. Stop living in a vacuum. Go talk to a liberal. Go talk to a Republican. Start having conversations again and stop being in a silo, because you're not always right. If you were, we wouldn't have so much wrong. There's my lecture.
Because as you said,
and don't buy Girl Scout cookies because they're made in China and they keep way too much and those poor girls don't get anything. Give them a 20, give them a 50 and hand it to them and say, I don't want any fucking cookies. Pocket the money and keep it and go to the Jamboree on me.
Because as you said, Tucker, you didn't have facial recognition software there. We also we need a complete catalog.
Maybe God said it wasn't okay. You're right. You're right. God expressly said, if I'm understanding it correctly, about breaking people, I'm going to paraphrase, breaking people down, subjecting people to vernacular that is derogatory. You're right. But you know what else he said? He also said, don't murder. And we got 67 million babies on ice. He said, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. You have the 7 deadly sins on display every single day. And I am not a godly man. But what's hilarious is that I preach more things that are Christian than most Christians that I know. I had my own doubts about God. I am the sheep that left the flock, but it doesn't mean that I don't know the difference between right and wrong. God said a lot of things, and I think right now cursing isn't his number one concern. I think he's trying to figure out why the hell Adam is now Eve and Eve is now Adam. I think he wants to know how it's possible a man can menstruate. How women and women's rights and the first and second wave of feminism was the most important thing that we could do in the 60s besides civil rights and the 40s. But now all of a sudden, women don't matter and a man can be a woman. It is the largest degree of sexism I have ever seen, and the people who propagated and perpetuated feminism are the ones that are screaming for its destruction. We are running a proxy war where we're giving $150 billion a year to a country when the entire Afghanistan war, we weren't spending $150 billion a year. We don't have forward operating bases. We don't have troop movements. We don't have resupply. We don't have frickin' laser guided bombs. We don't have frickin' planes being shot down. $150 billion, where's that money going? I think God for sure doesn't want us to cuss, but I know for a fact there are a million other things on his list when he's up there checking it twice that he's not going Matt Spear cuss too much. Give me a break.
Watch the videos and let's see what they did, because there's some really strange behavior on those videos of people behind the police lines in plain clothes, like touching them on the shoulder, talking in their ear, walking around boundaries as if they weren't even there. It's very odd. I'm the one who asked Merrick Garland. I showed him the tape of Ray Epps. The Democrats didn't like it. I had to show it on an iPad for Merrick Garland to watch it, and then he refused to say how many feds were there. But that was also in the Rasmussen poll. 57% of Democrats.
So listen, B. Jones, here's the thing. I deal with people like you all the time, and I have no problem with you challenging my thought process. God bless you. It's what America's all about. But call in. I'm not going to sit here and dedicate my entire show to you unless you're willing to dedicate yourself on screen. There's the phone number, or you can use the video link and ask my wife or Amy, please give me the video link, and you can dial in and we can have a conversation. But if you're going to sit here and talk about Parliament and magistrate and powdered wigs from the English and compare it to transgenderism, you know what? That's probably why we had a war. And that's probably why in 1776 we said, you know what, we've had about a fuck enough with the English. So if you're going to sit here and go ahead and wax intellect, let's talk about the Ku Klux Klan, which was founded by the Democrats. Let's talk about the Underground Railroad, which was founded by Republicans. Let's go and talk about how Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Let's go ahead and talk about Japanese internment camps, which were put out by a Democrat. Let's talk about Jim Crow laws, which were Democrats. Let's talk about civil frickin' rights, which was only pushed forth by anyone in the North and none of the 13 states in the South, which were all Democrat and resisted by Democrat. Let's talk about how Joe Biden eulogized 5 Ku Klux Klan members when they died. Let's talk about his racial tropes, where I have him over 75 times saying racist and completely today, which will get you canceled any minute of the day, more than any other president or president-elect. Hell, David Duke has said less racist shit than Joe Biden. You want to go ahead and wax intellects? Fine. Don't do it through text. I don't have the time or inclination to waste. Call me on the show. Let's do it face to face and let's do it the right way. I'll let you make a point. I'll make a point. And you and I hopefully will have an amicable chord at the end. But don't sit here and throw powdered wigs from fucking the 1700s at me and expect me to go, transgenderism, yay. And God may not care about 0.5% of the population, but it's in every school and it's being pushed down our throat. Why? Because it's the next topic. It's always something. It's always going ahead and pulling away from Christian values and Christianity and try to do all the stuff that it preaches against and to make it normal. That way, religion is even more marginalized than it already is. 20 years ago, 93% of the world believed in some form of organized religion. They are saying Christianity will become a thing of the past in 50 years because people are no longer reading and listening to the word of God. Now, I'm not all about church every single day, and I think church has caused a lot of problems in the world today. But the word of God in its simplest form is one of the most innocent and pure things that humanity can do for one another. It's one of the most powerful things outside of our Bill of Rights and the Constitution of these United States. Don't sit here and preach to me that there is not a war against religion in America, because it is. And you know damn well. I'm pretty confident he cares about that. Or she cares about that, depending upon your perspective.
Think that it's at least somewhat likely that feds, agents of the federal government, were not just there, but were also encouraging people to riot or go into the Capitol.
It's very clear from the footage that our producers bravely slogged through for 3 weeks, and God bless them for doing it, that that's exactly right, that federal agents encouraged the violence that day. We're just a TV show, and we can't.
16 minutes, and I want to get your stuff. Listen, I want to get to what you're saying.
I agree with your assessment completely. That obviously happened. Congressman Thomas.
See, B. Jones, I don't have a problem with trans people. How do you sit here and take that? I don't want my children knowing about that. I don't want them learning about it. I don't want them chemically castrated. I don't want children getting performed surgeries. I don't want them talking about any sexuality, including the nuclear family and heterosexual relationships. That's not the school's job. How did you take that and sit here and say that I'm anti-trans? Dude, you've done no research on me. You have no idea about me at all. And you're going to sit there and throw that around because you don't have anything else. Of course you have to say I'm transphobic. What I'm talking about is logic. It's what any parent would say. They don't want their children exposed to that. They don't want to see drag shows as school events. They don't want to see some guy's ass hanging out who's pretending to be a drag queen. I'm sorry. Most parents don't want that. And if you do want that, don't go ahead and say that I have to participate. How is that transphobic? Most gay, lesbian gay people and trans people will tell you this is going way too far. Everyone that I have spoken with will tell you it goes too far. And if you're sitting here and say, oh yeah, some white guy in Virginia with tattoos who's military and a Trump supporter has trans friends. Dude, I have hired 30,000 people in my career. You know nothing about me. I worked for Apple for 5 years. I hired every race, color, creed, demographic, and sexual and religious disposition on the fucking planet. I don't see people that way. I'm going to say it right now. Trans rights are human rights. I shouldn't have to say that. All rights are human rights. And trans people are just as human as you, me, and everyone else. However, human behavior is where the sin exists. And it needs to be curtailed and it needs to be modulated. Why? That's why we don't have Hustler in schools. That's why we don't allow people to go ahead and get a 6-pack of beer on their way to frickin' elementary school. Certain things are restricted because it's not age appropriate. How can you not understand that? Once again, I'm doing what I shouldn't do, which is giving you time instead of the 500 other people here who just want to finish the rest of the farkin' video. So have the common decency to watch the video and then call in. I bet you won't.
Thanks, Tucker, for getting this out there.
Of course. By the way, we're not, of course, in charge of this video. We don't own this video. There's a limit to the decisions we can make about it. But we have more, and we're going to show it to you tomorrow. More surveillance footage from January 6th, including an interview with a top Capitol police officer who was there and who raises a lot of pretty shocking questions about the Capitol Police response to January 6th. And keep in mind, the Capitol Police, as a force, is controlled by the Speaker.
Debbie says 5. I only knew 2 KKK Joe called mentors, Byrd and Eastman. You also have Wallace. And you have Strom Thurmond. And the 4th one is a no name that you don't know. There's 4 out of 5. I just doubled it for you. There is a 5th, and I can't remember it right now. There you go.
The force is controlled by the Speaker of the House. And at that point, it was Nancy Pelosi. So Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire pointed out that gender ideology is destroying young people and called on conservatives to reject it.
Thanks, Marcy.
Tough request. He's now being accused of genocide. He joins us next.
Doorstep.
Hey, Trace.
Hey, Tucker, just so we're clear, the Atlanta police chief called this attack on the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center this weekend a, quote, violent attack.
Okay, Jones, you get this is the last one you get. I literally stand with Dave Chappelle when it comes to trans people. I cried on that episode and I did it live. You don't know anything about me, man. You're a woman or whoever the fuck you are. I don't even know. You've got a clown as a picture. It's fitting. You don't know anything about me. Dave Chappelle is one of my heroes. He's somebody I watch religiously. I'm one of the only conservatives that watches Bill Maher and has been watching him probably older than you've fucking been on this planet. I have thousands of Democrat friends. I have thousands of liberal friends. Hell, I even have some people who are actually ultra-left progressive socialists. I've got alt-right friends. I've interviewed people who are racist. I've interviewed people who are Zionists. I've interviewed people who believe in God, who don't believe in God, who pee sitting up, standing down, and all in between. You're not hearing me. I don't see that stuff. I see right and I see wrong. And I use my filter as the following: a father, number 1, a husband, number 2, a patriot, number 3, and a veteran who has seen 26 different countries and certain things in the world that would make you throw up. I have a perspective. I also have a show. Your 15 minutes are up. If you want me to engage with you, call. Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
For the purpose of anarchy, and it
Please.
turns out one of the Antifa members arrested and charged with domestic terrorism is 28-year-old Thomas Jurgens, an attorney for the Southern Poverty Law Center. Jurgens is accused of using a peaceful protest as cover for conducting a violent, coordinated attack on both buildings and police officers in Atlanta. Now, it's interesting that Jurgens is accused of using peace to justify violence, because the Southern Poverty Law Center has long been accused of monitoring hate.
$100 says I will. Call in. It's right there. The number's right there. What are you waiting for?
Identified almost 1,000 people, organizations, and charities as hate groups, with the word hate being defined as anything SPLC disagrees with. Muslim women's rights activist Ayaan Hirsi Ali was labeled as a white nationalist by SPLC, and yet the FBI continues and has used SPLC as a source for who should be considered domestic terrorists. The Southern Poverty Law Center released a statement saying that Thomas Jurgens was simply a legal observer and that the arrests of the violent protesters is nothing more than state repression by heavy-handed police, except the heavy hands tossing the
No, I said call in now.
Belong to Antifa.
I've told you seven times to call in, and the one time I tell you to wait till the video's over, you actually listen. Hilarious.
Trace on every night at midnight. You should watch. We do. So the dumber the lie, the more viciously obedient.
All right, I need your first name. First name. It's B. Jones. Your name's not B. Jones. If we're going to have at least a common conversation, we should at least transfer our Christian names, don't you think? My name's Matt. What's yours? Robbie. Great to hear from you, Robbie. All right, Robbie. How have I, whoa, Robbie, slow down. Robbie, slow down. Okay, wait, Robbie, will you stop for a second? Because I've got to make sure your audio is being pumped in, okay? Can you hold on just for 2 seconds? I know you're eager. Slow down a second. Hold on. Preferences. I'm eager for anyone to call who has something to say. I have no problem having anyone come on. Not a lot of places do that. All right, hold on a second.
Because I think that rant went off a little towards the deep end.
Well, first of all, you can't judge whether it's a deep end or not. You have to understand that I deal with thousands of conversations in an hour.
From my perspective.
Well, that's fine. Your perspective's fine. You're going to have a chance to prove that. All right, go ahead. Say what you want to say. Everyone can hear him. Go ahead and give me a test 1, 2, 3, Robbie.
So the comment where I was just joking, I was literally just joking about saying like, oh, God doesn't want me to cuss, you know, and you had went into this rant about like trans people and all these different topics and stuff like that when I was just making a joke. So you were addressing my comment because I was actually only talking to people inside of your comments.
Okay.
I wasn't trying to interrupt your show or bother your show. I think that we have a lot of the same ideals. The problem is that it seems like I'm against your ideals or against most of the right-leaning ideals because I don't support either party.
Okay. So here's okay. So first of all, I can openly admit that chat, that's why I hate it, because it's impossible to recognize intent, and humor does not go through text. You agree with this, unless you put a smiley face or you put a JK or ROTFLMAO and bullshit like that, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair? Okay, cool. So now that I know you're joking, it doesn't matter because the way I treat you here is always going to be different than the way I treat you in text. I consider text to be the small kids table at Thanksgiving dinner. Now we're at the adults table. You're a human being. You have a voice. You have a name. You have a face. And I'm going to treat you with as much respect as you treat me. That's number 2. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So you were making a joke. So now I need to know what you weren't kidding about. Because you're calling in for a reason. Was it just to say that, or was there something that I say that you vehemently disagree with?
You kept pushing for me to call, and it seemed like you were really wanting to understand where I was coming from, because it seemed like our conversation with the text messages, like I was just, not text messages, but the little chat.
Yeah, I get it.
Was just goofing off and just joking, because I don't support either party. I think both parties are pretty much a scam, and I think you agreed with me a couple of comments before that.
I do. I do.
My thing with the Tucker Carlson thing is he's sharing a lot of this stuff that's saying he could show more receipts to compromise the lies that are coming from the Democrats, because I believe both parties are very, very bad and very, very deceitful, especially Liz Cheney, you know, and the rhinos over there on that side. My thing is I like more receipts to show proof of lies rather than, hey, this is a lie, look at this. When it's just like, after that, there's like, he could do it with the capabilities he has. He could prove a lot more things with more context of receipts of what's going on. So that's what I had initially was just joking about. And then I went into, you know, basically saying like both parties suck.
Okay. So let me address that first of all, real quick. Let me address your comments about Tucker, because understand that he is hamstrung. He is in the middle of litigation. He is not able to say certain things, and I don't defend Tucker. I think Tucker is a sensationalist a lot of times. I do believe he's extremely intelligent, but I also think he eggs people on for ratings, and I think that's disingenuous. But
absolutely,
there's things he can't say because of current pending legal challenges that are against Fox News right now. He even said that. He's like, listen, we want to show you all of it, but we can't. There's certain things they won't let us show you because it's involved in investigation. It's involved in lawsuits. It's involved in Freedom of Information Act requests. And there's certain things he can and can't do. So that's number one. Number two, I look at it this way. When you say receipts is plural, I don't buy into that. I need a receipt. I need one. And he's done that. They have shown multiple occasions that Democrats have altered January 6th video, from testimony, from sound bites from Trump, from what we just saw with the video. There's plenty of things that we've seen where they have lied. And even one of those completely changes the narrative and the oversight committee that ran this investigation, because it challenges their credibility. That's the way I think. I need one bit of evidence that challenges, and then I can pull at that thread and unravel the whole thing. Though? Well, see, that's the thing, is that it doesn't change anything other than confirmation from the people who already knew this. And what it does is it reinforces the biases of the people who believe this. But what it does for me...
what happened though. So like, to say that these little clips and these little things, there were still right-leaning people breaking into the Capitol. So I'm trying to understand with all these different lies, and you can't honestly say that these people weren't armed, because right-leaning people are typically armed, right? Left-leaning people are typically not armed.
Hold on, I got to stop you, because when you say something that's not accurate, I got to go ahead and challenge you. Did you take part in down there in J6? Did you go into DC?
I was in DC on G6.
Okay, that's not what I asked. Did you go there and participate? Yes or no? Can you answer that question?
No, I did not participate. No,
okay,
absolutely
cool.
not. I was there on January 6th, though.
Fair enough. So was I. I was 7 miles away at work in Annapolis. Well, 20 miles away, however fucking Annapolis is. So the answer is no and no. Okay, great. But what I do know is I know 3 Capitol Police officers who I've interviewed. I also know a MARSOC guy who was a sniper on the roof that day. And I've talked to several viewers who were actually on the ground that day. And I also have been down in DC plenty of times during events to know that they go through metal detectors. You didn't have guns there. You didn't have knives there. You
they
supposedly
went through
had
metal detectors where? Where were there metal detectors?
On the entry. Have you ever been to a DC rally? Everything's segmented. There's entry points from Capitol Police within a full square mile and a half around Capitol Building and around DC.
So how are they carrying metal flagpoles?
Okay, those were allowed in. You consider a flagpole to be a threat?
No, I don't. I'm saying that what I'm asking is your reference to saying because of this reason there was nobody that was armed.
No,
when
what
there's
I'm telling you is there's
I
security
have
measures.
Photos of people being armed in that area.
Armed what? What are you talking about? Armed with what?
Sidearms.
Dude,
was all sorts of arms. I
okay,
was
brother,
armed.
let me explain. Are you a concealed carry holder?
Yes.
You are? In which state?
Yes. Florida.
You don't need a concealed carry in Florida. It's an open carry state. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, you're mistaken. You have to have a CCW here.
You have to have a CCW through the state of Florida, or do you have reciprocity?
You have to have a CCW here in Florida.
Okay, so you had to go through a training class and you had to get a license for that. I thought there was open carry, or are they passed?
Correct.
No, Santis is trying to get that. Okay, cool. So he's trying to get that passed. All right, so you got a CCW. You were in D.C. You're telling me that if you had a firearm in Washington, D.C., that any concealed carry holder who was carrying that on their hip would go into D.C. with a firearm. Do you understand what the penalty is for carrying a firearm in Washington, D.C. across the bridge?
What is that?
It's a felony, immediate felony. Up to 5 years in prison, $25,000 fine, just for having a firearm in your possession. Washington, D.C. is a complete gun-free zone. There are no firearms that are not licensed by police officers, military, alphabet agencies, whatever. I've been carrying for 25 years. I was an intelligence specialist at the Pentagon. I had a .45 strapped to me inside the Pentagon that I could not go ahead and carry outside of the Pentagon. You can't carry in D.C. And if you do, usually it's a criminal element that does. You're going to show me photographs and you're going to email them to me, owner@don'tunfriendme.com, of January 6th, time-stamped and dated with the actual photo, which all digital cameras now have timestamp. And you're going to show me somebody carrying a firearm on those grounds.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
What was that
Do it right
email
now.
address? Let me write it down.
Owner@don'tunfriendme.com.
I have to dig for the photos. I don't
Okay,
have them,
I would like you to do me a favor. If you could send those to me in 24 hours.
One second. Let me open up my notepad. All right. And you said
owner@don'tunfriendme.com. And I want you to show me inside the rally grounds, inside the Capitol building, on the parapets and on the stairs, a person who was concealed carrying a weapon, who was not undercover, was not a cop, was not Capitol Police.
How am I supposed to prove if the photo I have is someone that's not undercover though?
Because you made the statement that there were people there at the rally who supported Donald Trump and Republicans who were carrying. That's what you said.
Yeah. I said I have photos and stuff of it. Yes.
Okay, well then you're going to be able. Well, you made a statement that you had it, so therefore, what you would like to say is there were people who were armed, but I cannot prove they were a part of the supposed rally or Donald Trump supporters. But there were people armed that day. If you want to go ahead and change that declarative statement,
brother. Hey,
okay, then I don't know what you're saying.
That's not what I'm
not
saying.
going fast.
That's not what I'm saying. What you said that the only people that would be allowed would be agents or undercover. So if I have photos, someone with that position could easily say that, oh, that's just an undercover person, regardless of their garments or what they're wearing or the red hats that they're wearing and all that stuff.
Sure, that's absolutely true. But once again, I'm not here. I don't need to prove it.
That's what I was giggling about is that point.
I don't need to prove it. You do. You're the one who made the statement. So it's immaterial. It's immaterial what anyone else says. You made a declarative statement that there were armed protesters at that rally. I'm telling you that's not accurate based upon the information that I had and the security measures that were in place. And if they were, Democrats would be saying that, other than flagpoles and box cutters and zip ties, which they most assuredly had, and is enough for me to say that there were people there with ill intent who had no business to be there, who should be in prison for what they did. I'm not defending January 6th. I am one of the most loudest advocates of condemnation of this. I'm saying to people, don't sit here and make excuses for it. Condemn it. And if somebody wants to have a conversation about it afterwards, then you can go ahead and talk about the things that you don't agree with, because it's never just open and shut, man. There's always two sides to every story. My point is that there were 57,000 people there who did nothing that day but clap for Donald Trump 2 hours until the actual supposed insurrection was already taking place, who did nothing to anyone. There were 3,000 people who entered and climbed the stairs who were wrong, vandalism, and obviously not felonious, but it was a misdemeanor charge for trespassing. Fine. And then there was about 100 people who wanted to do harm. And they wanted to break in and they wanted to hurt people. Those people need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, and I condemn them.
But it seems like with the Tucker Carlson Tonight video that we're watching all together, it seems as if he's trying to dismantle the entire image of all of that happening. I appreciate you saying that, you know, because that means a lot to someone like me that doesn't support either party. I'm completely anti-Biden and I'm completely anti-Trump. So when I hear someone that's, I assume you're more right-leaning than someone else. And I like the comments you had made earlier about like getting out of your echo chambers and making sure that you talk to liberals and you talk to Republicans and you see all the sides or perspectives of everything. That's all I'm about. I'm not trying to lean one way or lean towards another thing. So this whole conversation that we're having right now is just based on like me joking around in some comments, just watching along because I thought it was interesting. I don't have cable where I'm at. I'm on a camping trip. So I'm unable to focus and look at like my news. So I just happened to jump on your channel tonight. So it was just a little overwhelming.
It's fine, man. Listen, I'm enjoying our conversation.
Looking at my comments,
I get it.
Seeing
I love
as
our
if I was
conversation.
trying
There's
to be
no problem with
against you when I actually wasn't against you. All of my best friends are Republicans, and I have family that are Democrats. So I'm very open to all discussions and all things that are going on. Yeah. I'm completely against the two-party system altogether. That's where my stance is.
Well, good. So were the founding fathers, except, you know, I mean, the anti-federalists and federalists had different viewpoints, but that's where we got to balance. It was an exchange of ideas and multiple ideas, one that weren't always the most popular. But here, man, I want to be clear. I hear you trying to paint me in the corner of being a Republican or a conservative, but also saying, you know, I can listen to both sides. There's something really important is in the KP Kafkas of life, class, phylum, order, genus, species, when we talk about the animal kingdom, there's not many animals, including Homo sapiens, that are broken up by political ideology. In fact, that's not even on the hierarchy for a reason, because it means nothing. You cannot possibly encapsulate me based upon my political prerogatives and ideologies. It's impossible. You can't even get a semblance of who I am from my political viewpoints because it's become so disenfranchised and maligned with simplistic thought. I will tell you this, though. I am a constitutionalist.
There is a lot of nuances to political environment.
Well, there is, but you know what isn't nuance, which is really simple, where you can clear it up in one sentence, is I am a constitutionalist and I am for any party that protects it. And right now there is only one party.
Through and through.
Well, then you must be a Republican, because in this day and age you have to pick one. Because if you don't, they're going to continue to dismantle the Constitution. Really? Okay, you want examples?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Good, let's do it. Bill of Rights. Do you believe those are incontrovertible rights and should never be touched, never be altered, never be changed, never be watered down? Or do you believe that the Bill of Rights, the first 10, not the other amendments that have been changed, can be altered just on a whim? Yes or no?
I think that the Constitution is what do they call it? It's a live document, and there are things that need to change or need to be validated. But there are inherent rights that cannot be taken away or removed, such as freedom of speech, such as
you can't have it both ways. Wait a second. You can't have it both ways. That's not fair. You can't say it's a living document and then you believe it can't be changed and that it's iron bound and it's solidified in its way. The amendments doesn't mean it's a living document. The founding fathers didn't want to change the Constitution. They wanted it to be difficult. They wanted it to be painstaking. That's what the difference between a democracy and a republic is. A republic is based on laws and individual rights, and the moral majority isn't superior based upon it has a louder voice. They wanted it to be difficult to change. We have 9 out of the 10 Bill of Rights. The only one that has not been altered or changed from its original construction is Amendment number 3, which is the quartering of troops, which is about as obsolete as fucking tea at noon with the English on the harbor. Those were all done without due process. They were all done without legislation assigned to them. They have modified it. There's over 4,600 different regulations that are pending right now in this year alone in 2023 against the Second Amendment. There's over 1,700 different laws that have been put in place and 26,000 over the last 50 years that have been subjugated and put through by the opposition party. There's only one party trying to change the Constitution, brother. My point is you got to pick a side when it comes to that. And if that is inherently what you believe, then you got to pick the party in the lesser of two evils, unfortunately. I don't believe in that statement, but gosh darn it, we have to. Otherwise, we're not going to have anything left.
I can't do that.
Well, then we're in a conundrum.
It's like picking who has the better master. You know what I'm saying, man? It's
no,
like,
it's not.
I can't do that.
Okay, if you want to ensure that you don't have a master, brother, the only thing that protects that and from tyrannical rule is the Constitution. You have to see how this is antithetical
Correct.
to your argument.
I absolutely agree. I'm completely 100% for the Constitution. Nothing more, nothing less.
All right. Okay. So what are we going to do about that?
What do you mean? What are we going to do about it? What do you mean? Like, that's a deep
considering
question,
this
you know?
is that the Constitution is yours and it's mine. It's not the government's.
Mm-hmm. It's ours.
Constitution,
yes.
In all senses, the Constitution is to prohibit the government. It's nothing else. Therefore, the people need to do something. The people need to say that there is this overarching arm of tyrannical rule that's happening in Washington based on dollars and based on popularity and not about the constituents that it's supposed to protect. The problem I have with Washington isn't political parties. I'm fine with that. Several governments have been successful with political parties throughout the ages, at least if you want to consider non-empires. But pretty much everyone's an empire at some point or another. But my point is that this is the best system we have in place right now. And a third party, honestly, is just going to add more mud to a place that's already too swampy. You have got to get the money out of politics. You've got to absolve the political action committees. You have to take private interest out of government.
What about the general idea when we used to have the loser of the presidency, when they would run together, would become the vice president?
Yeah, 1861.
I think that was a very good era in our. I think that was a very good era in our country.
1861 was the last time that happened. Could you possibly imagine Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in the same office? First of all, Donald Trump would accidentally fall on some bullets with Hillary Clinton around, let's be honest. But could you even imagine Trump and Biden? I mean, talk about a complete...
If that was the last time it happened, we can't necessarily believe that Trump or Hillary would have been in that place to begin with.
Oh, that's a good point. No, that's a very good point. You're right, because it would completely change the dichotomy of the party. You're right. That's a great point. I'll concede to that. I didn't think of that.
I think that we have found ourselves in a very ripped apart society of these political views that people hold so strongly. So when I was teasing about the cussing comment, because I fucking cuss all the time. I don't care about language. I'm with you. God has more things to worry about, and I'm a very moral person. So I believe if I'm morally a good person, my cussing isn't going to prevent me from going to heaven.
Well, let's hope.
You get what I mean?
We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Hey, Robbie, listen, can I say something to you? I want to, no, I'm going to be transparent with you. Some people are on here and like, dude, wake up. This guy needs to pick a side. He's an idiot. And then some people are calling me an idiot. I want to tell you something. It takes balls to pick up the phone and call. We saw how that little girl, whatever his face was, Warren, didn't call in and wanted to go ahead and puff up his chest. It takes an incredible amount of moxie to call a show. And we have a lot of people on tonight. We had 560 on. This thing is going to be hitting 75,000. No, and you deserve to have a voice. You deserve to have an opinion. And my job is not to change yours. Mine is to give you perspective and hopefully just have one modicum of thought that makes you go, oh, you know what? I didn't think of that. You did that for me. I always say that the vice president and president should always be from the same party. You actually, you know what? That's a very good point. Retroactively, if we would have went back and kept that law, I think it was 1861, it may have completely changed the dichotomy of them working together today instead of this yin and yang relationship that Democrats and Republicans have. I'm going to give you last word. You get 1 minute and then we're going to watch Tucker.
Okay, 60 seconds.
Yep.
I believe it might have went into the 1900s. I don't think it was 1860 where that was. I think you said.
I'll find out. You give me your last word and I'll let you know.
Yeah, I think it was in the mid 1900s where we were still doing that there. Well, I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate you taking the time to understand my perspective. I wasn't trying to troll you. I'm not a troll. Sure. I don't believe in that kind of shit. I believe in like you said, making people think and having different perspectives where I don't necessarily just sit in an echo chamber and believe my own views. So I appreciate you letting me on tonight, and
Sure.
you know, I'll be on the rest of the evening.
And by the way, it was 1804, not 1861. I was wrong, and that was another show, but it was 1804 was the last time it happened, and that was with Burr and Hamilton, I believe. Let me just give you the quote, just so we can all learn something tonight, right? That's important. It says, the amendment was proposed at 1796. Election resulted in President John Adams and Vice President Thomas Jefferson from opposing parties, and the 1800 election led to a tie between Jefferson and Aaron Burr. That's right, it was Aaron Burr and Jefferson, not Hamilton, excuse me. They were members of the same party, Democrat-Republican, but it took the House of Representatives 36 contentious ballots to break the tie. In 1804, Jefferson was reelected and George Clinton became the vice president under the 12th Amendment. I'm looking to see if there's anything else that I've missed, and then we'll jump off. That's what I'm reading. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. If it's different, let me know. Okay? Robbie, thanks for calling. I appreciate you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Have a great night, brother.
All right, Bubba. Call me Matt. Call me Matt, please. I'm not that old, for God's sakes. Nice guy. Listen, everybody gets an opinion. Once you pick up that phone and you call, there's a completely different disposition with me. You immediately have some respect. Now, what you do with that respect is up to you. If you're going to be amicable, I will too. If you're going to be a complete douche nozzle, you're going to go away. I enjoyed our conversation. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but that's okay. I don't have to. The only thing that matters is that we have a mutual accord and we can further our discussion later. That is what relationships are based on. You don't take off the prom dress on the first night. Well, you could. I mean, I would love you if you would have when I was younger, but you can court each other a little bit. And even in dialogue that can be contentious, there's a courting process, and mutual respect is important. And if you don't provide it, you're going to lose something very valuable, more valuable than your pride. You're going to lose the opportunity to connect with a human being and possibly learn something you didn't know. I got to give him credit for calling. It took Moxie. Let's watch the rest of this. It's about time. Thanks for holding on.
You're expected to believe that anyone, even children, can change their biological sex at will, even the DNA inside them. And obviously that's demented, and no honest person would go along with that lie, or any lie for that matter. At CPAC this weekend, Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire said basically just that.
One more thing. On your Facebook feed right now, you have a bunch of likes and hearts. Spam the shit out of those. Right now, we're sitting at like 10,000. The more you do, the more this show grows. We've been sitting at, can you believe that, 105, 106 people for almost a year. We're being throttled by Facebook. We broke the algorithm tonight. And the reason why is because of you. We're on at 8:30, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We have a recorded show Monday through Friday. The recorded show is very, very laid back. There's no cussing. I'm very professional. I write the shows and I put them together. I have one real special for tonight. I'll have it out right after the show in about an hour. Give it a watch. I think you'll enjoy it. But the recorded shows tend to get a little hot. We cuss a little bit. We get vulgar. We have a lot of fun. If it bothers you, simply ask us to tone it down and we'll try. But if you could spam the hell out of that button for me right now, that helps us grow, and Facebook likes that. And when you do, they go ahead and show it to more people. Let's finish this up.
The Daily Wire said basically just that. Watch.
There can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. It is all or nothing. If transgenderism is true, if men really can become women, then it's true for everybody of all ages. If transgenderism is false, as it is, if men really can't
I will
become
be
women,
showing part 2
as they
tomorrow.
cannot, then it's false for everybody too. And if it's false, then we should not indulge it, especially since that indulgence requires taking away the rights and customs of so many people. If it is false, then for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion,
Thanks, Liz.
transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology.
So the ideology leads to the castration of children, and therefore it's bad. It is a cancer on the country. Of course, that's true. But for the crime of saying so, the Daily Beast, which is an obedient servant of the people in power,
Part 2's tomorrow.
the defender of
I'll be here
castrating
tomorrow
children,
live. Don't worry about it.
accused the
I'll
man
be
you
here.
just saw, Michael Knowles, of calling for genocide. And we're quoting. Michael Knowles says transgender community must be eradicated. After Knowles and the Daily Wire threatened to sue, the Daily Beast corrected their headline. But of course, they'd already accused the man of pushing genocide. Whitney. Michael Knowles is the host of the Michael Knowles Show. He joins us tonight. Michael, first of all, thank you for what you said, which I think is utterly reasonable and defensible. Were you surprised that the Daily Beast, really the filthiest organ in American, quote, journalism, accused you of pushing genocide?
I've been called all sorts of nasty things by the liberal press, Tucker, so I tend to expect everything, but I have to admit, being accused of genocide did take me by surprise. That seemed extreme even for the fake news media. And I think it surprised a lot of lawyers.
Yeah, there's a part 2 tomorrow night,
well.
so stop on by. I'll make sure I announce
Daily Beast and the Huffington Post and Rolling Stone and a number of other outlets all spread this lie about me. They just put words into my mouth that I never said. You heard exactly what I said. I said that for the good of these people in particular,
Christopher,
so presumably I don't want to murder
I don't know
them.
what you're asking for. I don't get, dude, the comments are flying by at 100 miles an hour. Ask again.
Beings, talking about an ideology here. They said that I wanted to commit genocide, and I said, this is libel.
Thanks, Kathy. Good to have you here. Thanks, Gene.
Libel. You know, the libel laws in the United States have quite a high threshold to actually sue. This meets that threshold. I think that unless the news editors at the Daily Beast and Rolling Stone and Huffington Post and all the rest, unless they're completely illiterate, they lied intentionally, and I think their lawyers called them and said, change the headline or you're going to get sued into oblivion.
But why would they want to defend child castration? I mean, that's almost a spiritual question that we should meditate on, and I know that you have been. Michael Knowles, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
We've got more news coming up. We'll be right back.
All right. So we will have part 2 on tomorrow, and I'm hoping it's a little meatier. This isn't, you know, there's
pushed to the very limit.
There's some here, but
the need has never been more urgent.
yeah, they're just going to do do commercials and closing statement
They are
now.
all variety of fruits and response.
Go online.
Yeah, it's all commercials now.
You won't find
That's good. We can wrap it up here, and I can go spend some time with the fam.
Spectacular shoreline and chart.
All right, that's good enough. So tomorrow we'll be back, same bat time, same bat channel. Chris Grable, if you want to talk, you can call in. Debbie, Debbie, I don't care if you share the show. You don't get to. Either you explain what you meant, or don't. You questioned why I was making statements at the beginning when it came to copyright and overall opinion. And you questioned and you said, we know how you feel about January 6th. You have no earthly idea how I feel about January 6th. You have heard me say that Ashley Babbitt went into that building and people are making it sound like that she was there to help. And she was running counterintelligence and security operations. Come on. There was a group of people on January 6th who were there to do harm. And those people need to be held accountable. And I'm not going to change from that opinion. You may not like that. You may not like me because of it. You may decide not to watch my show. That's all good. You don't have to. I would rather have you call in and tell me why I'm wrong, and then we can have an amicable conversation about it. But when I can sit here and say with most confidence is that what I'm not going to do is have what the BLM riots, the 184 out of the 400 and some odd that were riots and did $2.5 billion with uninsurable and insurable damage to the United States, that those were peaceful protests or mostly peaceful. I'm not going to sit here and say January 6th was mostly peaceful because I'm not a liberal. And I don't mince words. It wasn't peaceful. It got out of hand. It was an incredulous experiment in stupidity. I don't appreciate it. I don't like being marred with Nazis and insurrectionists. And I don't appreciate us giving ammunition to the liberals, which they had nothing. Conservatives don't do this shit. Republicans don't riot. And we gave them an ungodly amount of ammunition to use against us and Donald Trump. And I think it was complete BS. And we were wrong to not condemn it to a person and say, this is bullshit. We don't support it. Blah. End. Full stop. And let the chips fall. Let their stupid investigation fall. Let them talk about Trump in the limo. Let them fabricate evidence and all of that. And then we knew that these tapes were going to be released. We knew that the truth would come out about how complicit liberals were in this process. But instead, what did we do? We fed the beast. We fed the liberal fucking media machine, and we shouldn't have. Now, you may agree with that, and you might say, well, Matt thinks that Ashley Babbitt deserved to die. That's not what I said. What I said is I understand operational security and I understand standing orders. And when your superior says, thou shall not pass, and you Gandalf this line, and if anyone comes over this line, that's it. That you follow orders. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. Ashley Babbitt most assuredly was led astray by a lot of shit that wasn't true. She was an ardent Trump supporter. And for us to sit here and say, well, there were no Trump supporters there that day. Ashley Babbitt was one of the most fervent Trump supporters there are. Her Facebook page, her social media page were blasted with it. She was an Air Force veteran. She deserves the respect of at least to not lie on her. She loved Donald Trump. She cared about Donald Trump. She thought the election was stolen, and she was pissed, and she was led astray by a lot of stuff. I have broken down the election more than any other host, and I will be happy to do it again. And if you're going to sit here and say that I believe that it wasn't stolen, you're right. I don't believe it wasn't stolen. I believe it was unconstitutional. And there happens to be a few conservatives who are now agreeing with me, and more conservatives are agreeing with me, including Mark Levin. Because you're not seeing the big picture here. You're not seeing the laws the Democrats pass in these states. You're not seeing the amount of ballots that went through. You're worried about Dominion. You're worried about George Soros. You're worried about watermarks on ballots. And you're not focusing on the laws that they changed, which allowed unregistered voters to get ballots, about close to 50 million of them. And if you look at the disparity between 2016, 2012, 28, and you look at all the elections, you're looking at one of the highest election counts we ever had. Was 112 million votes, 91 million on average between those two numbers. We had almost 180 million people vote. Why? Because they were all home, they were all locked down, and they all got ballots. And they were told that Orange Man is bad. And they saturated these cities where they showed a 90-10 in favor of Joe Biden. I can go all the way back to Walter Mondale, who lost 49 states against Ronald Reagan, and none of those districts came in at 90-10, and he was the biggest horse's ass in the world. There are so many things about that election that need to be reviewed and need to be looked at. And thank God the Supreme Court is hearing it this month. But for you to sit here and say 10,000 mules or 2,000 mules or the Nashville Telecom Center being blown up or George Soros is in Buenos Aires with the Nazis running everything or watermark on ballots or harvesting, folks, there's a chain of evidence here and you just haven't looked. Start off with the DNC primary. Start off with these following: Wisconsin and Michigan, and look how they changed the primaries. Look who was in charge. Look who was in the lead. It wasn't Joe Biden. Joe Biden was sucking hind tit. He was worse than Kamala Harris. Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders had the nomination locked up. It was going to be a runoff to them, and super delegates would have been brought into it, just like Hillary Clinton, to decide it, and it would have been stolen from Sanders again and given to Buttigieg. The Democrats knew this. So for the first time in history, Wisconsin and Michigan, what did they do? They allowed a 100% mail-in ballot vote. And they saw how Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg cleaned up on that. Then what did you see? You saw South Carolina and the Carolinas get involved. And Kamala Harris announced that she was going to be vice president. And what happened? Joe Biden all of a sudden came in first. How? And then the rest was history. He had momentum. Folks, look at it. Look at the legal precedents of Democrats changing the way ballots are done. How many polling stations were opened up? How many drop-off locations were opened up? They did the one thing you can't do in an election, which is solicit ballots and votes. It's illegal. You can't do it, and it's against election law. You have to be registered to vote to get a ballot. If all we do is stop right there and freeze and take all those affidavits and all the video proof and all that other bullshit and simply ask the question of our congressmen, can you solicit ballots to unregistered voters? And the answer is no. Who did it? Who had the power to change it? And who is held accountable for it? If you simply do that, you have a case. And guess what they tried to do? They tried to bring that in January. They tried to do that. It was a little too late. Why? Because every district court shot Trump down. He lost 51 some odd cases before that even was presented to the Supreme Court to challenge the constitutionality, and people tried to enact a convention of states. It was too late. You understand that those district courts are run by the Supreme Court. That's what they do when they're not in session. The United States is broken up into districts, and those Supreme Court justices oversee those. They saw the evidence. They know there wasn't enough there. But the constitutionality is a completely different story. You've got to change the way you process your information. It's easy to watch a Dinesh D'Souza movie and go, I've got all the answers. It's easy to listen to some guy on the internet like me and assume you know everything about it. You don't even know a tenth of what I just said. Some of you are going, holy shit, I'm going to look this up and I'm going to challenge this guy. Do it. And when you find out I'm right and go, holy crap, everything he said was true. There's not one thing that is, and it's all provable. It's all factual. I've got HR bills to prove it. I've got affidavits to prove it. I've got legal court case numbers. I got judges signing off on it. I got the Constitution of states being changed. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This is just what happened. They used COVID. Now, everyone goes, oh, well, the Democrats created COVID. Stop it. Don't make things that you can't prove to be the part of your entire summation. Don't end a great argument on fucking lofty BS to sell your argument. It's like people who go get a job and they have a really good resume, but they want to embellish. It's like military people who say, oh, I've got a Medal of Valor, when what you did was good enough. You don't need to oversell it. If you just question the mail-in ballots and how many went to unregistered voters, it changes the entire conversation to something that's practical, it's in law, and it's written down. This isn't hard. When cases, okay, I am not going to get into an argument about the microcosms of what cases. Okay, we're not taking more callers. We're wrapping it up. I have done the election conversation 100,000 times. Look specifically at what you're talking about. You're actually talking about legitimate election fraud that had the ability to change the election. Look at those cases. Look at the cases specifically around Dominion servers. Look at the sworn affidavits to eyewitnesses who said that they had their ballots harvested. Look at those. These are the arguments that were made. I'm not talking about some small election fraud that took place because some disgruntled poll worker decided to go ahead and stick 100 ballots from his frickin' apartment complex in the machine. That's not what we're talking about. Election fraud happens every single year. What we're talking about is monumental election fraud. Over 7 million votes to the popular vote and over 1.2 million went to the electorate. Show me the evidence you have that those votes were changed that doesn't add up to mail-in ballots. I can prove to you mail-in ballots were the culprit. You can't prove to me anything except some circumstantial evidence based on videos that nobody understands. Nobody was there for the context. Somebody can show me a Dominion server hacked, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's what happened. You can show me ballot boxes changed in Arizona or some polls weren't open until a certain period of time, but you can't sit here and tell me that those were Democratic strongholds or Republican strongholds. How many votes came through? Your complexity of knowledge when it comes to the electoral process shows that you've never worked on a campaign in your life. You have to stop and slow down. Just because there's smoke doesn't mean there's fire. You understand that. If you've ever created a fire out of anything other than some matches and some lighter fluid, you know that just because there's smoke, it doesn't mean there's fire. There is so many pieces of evidence that lead to conclusions that aren't realistic. If you simply make the election about this, and I'll leave this alone. You trust our government way too much if you think they could pull off something of this complexity. 7 different swing states, tens of thousands of people, from lawyers to poll watchers, to county clerks, to city council, to mayors, to detectives, to FBI, to average everyday voters who have a calculator and can actually go online. There are so many people involved in what you are calling a coup d'etat of an election, when I'm telling you they just did it legally by changing the laws. Why is that so hard to believe? Why is me telling you that there were laws and there is a paper trail of this there for you to see to explain the disparity in votes? If you can openly admit that this was the largest election that the world has ever seen in any country, that more people voted than ever before in American history. In fact, you can take 20 elections and add them all together, and it still doesn't encroach upon this in the 1900s. Why? Well, because that means there were more ballots than ever before, or more people registered to vote. Were there? No, there wasn't. So if that's the case, then what happened? Well, we know what happened. Emergency powers by COVID allowed people, and states said, well, wait a second, we can't have them go to a polling booth. We got to send out ballots to these people without checking that obviously the registration and the rosters for California are so far bad. There's an estimation that over 1.1 million people registered in California don't even live there anymore, aren't alive anymore. The ballot registry is so screwed up in this country. That's what needs to be fixed. That's what needs to be checked. You've got to slow down and focus on the systemic issues, the law. It's not about what you feel. It's what you can prove. I'm not challenging you that 2020 was a complete kerfuckle. I'm challenging you on your premise of what you think it was versus what it really was. 20,000 people have liked and spammed on this, and I appreciate you doing it. This is the Don't Unfriend Me show. It comes down to this. I haven't said it in a while. We can agree, we can disagree, you can love me, you can hate me. We just don't unfriend each other for opinions. Now, I've banned plenty of people. If you come with respect, if you come with an idea, if you come with something you just want to talk about, I'm fine with that. Please don't do it by text. We misconstrue each other. I am the only conservative host that I know that is as large as we are now. 100 and almost 50,000 people follow. We influence 3 million people a month where I interact with people. I talk to y'all. It's not illegal to change the law if they allow the law to be changed. There's no precedent for this, Kevin. That's the problem. You need precedent. That's what the Supreme Court is going to establish. And they're going to establish precedent on mail-in ballots and emergency powers during a pandemic or another situation where people can't get to the box. That's about to be heard. So let's hope. But if there's no precedent, there is no crime. Murder wasn't illegal until it was. Maybe in God's law. But in the United States of America, until laws are written, you can get away with it. That's why embezzlement. That's why FTX and what he did with digital currency, he's probably not going to see the inside of a cell. Because precedent is important. And if you don't have a crime, because there are no laws against it, it's not a crime. That's the problem. That's why we have to ensure that we are electing people who are going to see this through. People like Eli Crane from 1st District in Arizona, who's been on this show, mind you. He's a great freaking guy. All right, folks. You can call in anytime. Would love to have you on. We are on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Live at 8:30. Tomorrow is the exception. We will be on at 8 o'clock again. Same time, same bat channel. We're going to be doing Tucker Carlson Part 2. My show is recorded Monday through Friday. I have a show right here in the kitty. It's 25-minute show on Katy Perry and American Idol. It's a pretty good show. It's pretty funny. I want you to watch it. Please like it. We're trying to break the algorithm. You going in and liking constantly will keep us up in the feed and they won't be able to throttle us. Facebook is challenging us and they're trying to keep the thumb on the scale. Only you can help us out. Go buy a hat, don'tunfriendme.com or thedumbshow.com, and you can follow us at The Dumb Show. We've got some cool shirts, some cool hats. Does anybody want to see the new one we did? And then we'll jump offline. Here it is. Takes a second to load. It's a big file. There it is. Now on thedumbshow.com, hoodies, t-shirts, and hats. Awake but not woke is available. Go take a look. The prices are fairly reasonable. You can get 10% off using DUM10. Alex says, Matt, where did you get the mic cover for the mic? This one? This is at Mike Flags. Just type in Mike Flags. And it's a local website. Oh, damn it. I'll help you, Alex. Hold on. See, I care about you guys. I didn't get to read all the comments tonight, but Impact PBS. If you want a mic flag, here's the email. There it is. admin@impactpbs.com. And if you go there, her name is Ellen. Tell her Don't Unfriend Me show sent you. She's a nice lady. She'll get you everything you need. Listen, everybody, rock and roll. Thank you so much. Do me a favor. Go also listen to Still Point, STIILPOINT. They do our intro to our show. If this is your first time watching Don't Unfriend Me, I promise you the following. I will piss you off sometimes. I won't make you happy. I'll jump on your shit. You'll make a post that I don't like, and I'll say something. It's never personal. I run at 120 miles an hour because I've got thousands of comments I'm trying to cipher through. I may not always get what you're saying, but if you give me a chance, I promise you, I'll sell you on some things. You may not agree with me all the time. Just remember, give it a chance. Go over to thedumbshow.com. I will see you later. We go out with the Veteran Crisis Hotline every single night. Mental health is so important to our vets. Watch this message and then go ahead and follow and like and share us. Keep going and keep listening for the truth. Good night, everybody. God bless.
I'm David Boreanaz with the Cast of SEAL team, and we have an important message for returning vets. We want you to know if you're struggling to cope, there's help and it's just a phone call away.
The Veterans Crisis Line is staffed with experienced professionals who know your struggles.
There's no greater sacrifice in service to our country.
I will make that, Mike.
Enjoy our freedoms because of it.
Your service is important. You are important. For vets
Howie,
and their
I did
families,
see that
the
ad
Veterans
about chocolate
Crisis
bars.
Line is here to help 24 hours a day. Please call.
I did see chocolate bars. If there can be one fraud ballot, need to prove 100% of all ballots with full election integrity, we have nothing. I see that, Keith. Folks, I'd love to read all your comments. I just can't tonight. We have 206 people still on. We've had 30,000 likes, thumbs up. It's amazing. It's overwhelming tonight. I wish it was like this every night. I would never leave this damn channel, but alas, my closing video didn't play correctly. Here's a little still point. If you like this, this is the intro to the show. I hope you enjoy it. Good night.